सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः। So for the next 7 days we'll be discussing the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And what is the name of the chapter? Purushottama Yoga. Now, what is the unique feature about this chapter? Number one, this is one of the shortest chapters in Bhagavad Gita. Which is the other chapter which is the shortest? The 12th chapter. 12th chapter and 15th chapter, they have only 20 verses. So this chapter happens to be the shortest. Shortest chapter doesn't mean it is the most unimportant chapter. In fact, this chapter is unique because this is the only chapter in the entire Bhagavad Gita which Bhagavān calls as Shāstram. If you see the 20th verse of this chapter, Bhagavān says, Iti guhyatamam shastram idamuktam mayanagha. 20th verse. This is the only chapter which Bhagavān calls Shāstram. Now what do you mean Shāstram? Any scripture which deals with all the important topics of spirituality, if there is a scripture which deals with all the important topics, then that scripture or that text is called Shāstram. So what are the important topics of spirituality? Topic number 1, nature of jiva. Topic number 2, nature of Ishvara. Topic number 3, nature of Jagat. Topic number 4, nature of bondage. Topic number 5, means of liberation. Topic number 6, Jivatma Paramatma Aikya, oneness between Jivatma and Paramatma. If these 6 topics are covered, now these are the most important topics in spirituality. If these 6 topics are covered in any text, then that text is called as Shāstram. Now here Bhagavān calls this chapter as Shāstram. So what does it mean? All these 6 topics are covered in just 20 verses. So hence we say this chapter is very, very important. In fact, if we want to say what is the essence of the entire Bhagavad Gita, is there a chapter which can summarize the entire Bhagavad Gita? Then we can say it is the 15th chapter. 15th chapter is the summary of entire Bhagavad Gita. So say the great commentators. And that is one of the reasons why this chapter is chanted on important occasions. This chapter is also chanted just before taking meals also. So very many times what happens when we chant this 15th chapter, we are not reminded of God, we are reminded of food. Just before lunch you chant this, just before dinner you chant this. Therefore, whenever this is chanted, what do we remember? We don't remember God, we don't remember Purushottama, we remember only food. To that extent, this chapter has reduced. So now, having dealt with this much of introduction for this chapter, now let us enter into the chapter. Now this chapter begins with the description of samsāra vriksha. This chapter begins with a description of a tree, of a samsāra tree. Now in our scriptures, samsāra is compared to so many things. Now, by the way, what is this samsāra? What is samsāra? Now this term is going to come very frequently in this chapter. Samsāra normally people translate it as world. Samsāra is sometimes translated as the burden of responsibilities. Samsāra sometimes is called all the worries, fears, anxieties. In some language, samsāra means wife. Now these are maybe the secondary meanings, but the primary meaning which we are going to use here is samsāra means samsarati iti samsāra. Samsarati means constant change. So that experience of change is the meaning of samsāra. Whatever changes constantly, continuously, we experience that change. That experience of change is what is called as samsāra. And whenever we experience change, we are not at ease because we want everything to be settled down. Isn't it? Change of job is a painful thing. Change of house is a painful thing. Change of relationship is a painful thing. Every change is painful. So therefore, the secondary meaning of samsāra is restlessness, peacelessness. But the primary meaning is change, experience of change, which is essentially suffering. So now this suffering, this samsāra, has been compared with very many things. In this chapter it is compared with a vriksha, but in our scriptures there are so many comparisons given. For example, samsāra is considered to be like a burning house. Remaining in the samsāra is like burning house. Now whenever burning house example is given, don't take it literally, take only the suffering part of it. Just imagine a person is stuck up in his house and the house is burning. What will be his mental condition? Samsāra is something like this. In this world, birth, death, disease, etc. gives this kind of pain, suffering. For the sensitive, for the cultured, for the evolved, for the matured, for the sensitive people living in this world gives this kind of suffering. Sometimes samsāra is compared with a python. These are all the examples taken from the scriptures. Srimad Bhagavatam gives varieties of examples. Sometimes this samsāra is compared like a python, and this person is being swallowed by the python. Just imagine the condition of that person. The person being swallowed by kala vyala, mukhagrasa. The person who is being swallowed, chewed, digested by a python. What will be the suffering? This is the suffering which a person goes through when he is in the world. Another example is Bhavasagara, ocean. Just imagine the condition of a person who is being tossed up and down by the waves of the ocean. He is in the midst of the ocean. Look at his helplessness. So many aquatic creatures troubling him. Even the salty waters also. That suffering is pointed out. Sometimes this samsara is compared with a forest. Just imagine a person in the midst of a big forest extending miles together. He has lost his way. The forest full of wild animals. Compare his suffering. Sometimes this samsara is compared with desert. So in the desert he is stuck. He is walking far away, he is seeing water, but actually it is not water, it is only mirage. Tired, exhausted, thirsty. How that suffering would be? Suffering of samsara is like that. Sometimes samsara is compared with a nightmare, terrible dream. Though it may be a dream, but the experience is real as long as the person is in the dream, isn't it? Sometimes samsara is compared with a disease, bhava roga, it is said. An incurable disease, a painful disease. Sometimes samsara is compared with a kupa, bhava kupa. Kupa means a well. A person has been fallen to a deep well, all alone, is not able to come out. How his suffering will be? So these are all the different ways in which the samsara has been, samsaric suffering has been compared. Now in this chapter, samsara has been compared with a tree. That is how the chapter begins. Samsāra vriksha. Now why such an inauspicious beginning? In the beginning itself, some pain. Why such an inauspicious beginning? Though superficially it may appear to be inauspicious, actually suffering is the beginning of auspiciousness. Why is it the beginning of auspiciousness? It is only in suffering we remember God. It is only in suffering we become introspective. It is only in suffering we think of the purpose of life. Otherwise we are all so busy with our family life, with our professional life. We never think about what is life. Why have we come? Where will we go? What is the purpose of life? All these questions come only when we suffer. So therefore, suffering is a blessing in disguise. So that is why the chapter begins with suffering. The description of suffering is given so that we become sensitive, so that we take spirituality seriously. There is a purpose of life. There is a way in which this suffering can be totally elevated. We can overcome this suffering. We can come out of this suffering. There is a way. But what is the first step? The first step is, I am suffering and I must know that I am suffering. Very many times we suffer, but we don't know that we are suffering. So what is the first step in spirituality? Suffering is already there. You don't have to create suffering. You have to just know that you are actually suffering. So the chapter begins by introducing us to our own suffering. My dear, you are suffering. See, these symptoms do you go through? That is nothing but suffering. Right? And the second point is, the cause of this suffering is not somebody. The cause of this suffering is not the world. The cause of this suffering is me, myself. I am responsible for my suffering. Now, since I am responsible for my suffering, so therefore, if I want to come out of this suffering, who has to make up his mind? He himself. Right? So therefore, this chapter begins with a samsāra vriksha. Now there is a description going to come about this tree, samsaric tree. Please understand, this tree is not somewhere outside, the tree is inside. So now let us see what this tree is. So let us chant verse number 1 and 2. Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha. Atha Panchadashodhyayah. Purushottama Yoga. Shri Bhagavān Uvacha. Urdhvamulam adhashākham Ashvatham prahuravyayam Chandamsi yasya parnani Yastam veda sa vedavit Adhaschordhvam prasrutastasya shākhaha Guna pravruddha vishaya pravalaha Adhascha mūlānyanusantatani Karmanubandhini manushya-loke Together Urdhvamulam-adhashākham Ashvatham prahuravyayam Adhaschordhvam prasrutastasya shākhaha Guna pravruddha vishaya pravalaha Adhascha mūlānyanusantatani. Yes. By the way, this chapter is called Purushottama Yoga because in this chapter, Bhagavān introduces himself as Uttama Purusha. Later on we will see that. So since Bhagavān calls himself as Uttama Purusha, so this chapter's name is Purushottama Yoga. Right. Now what does this verse say? The verse says, Prahuhu they say. Prahuhu they say. Who say? Wise people. Wise people of the ancient times. They call this samsāra vriksha prahuhu. What do they call? As ashvatham. They say that there is a tree. There is a tree. What is the name of the tree? Ashvatham. Ashwatha tree, a peepul tree. What is the unique feature about this tree? This tree is avyayam, imperishable. So there is a tree which the wise people say, they talk of. It is a peepul tree which is an imperishable tree. But what is the unique feature about this tree? Urdhvamulam. Urdhvamulam. Mulam means root. Urdhva means high. The unique feature about this tree is not like other tree. Normally for other trees, roots are below, branches are above. But for this tree, roots are above, urdhvamulam adhashakam, branches are below. Oh. And what about the leaves? Chandamsi yasya parnani. The leaves are nothing but Veda mantras. And they say, Yastam Veda Saveda Vidu. The one who has known this tree, the one who has known this peepul tree, he has known everything mentioned in the Vedas. He is a Veda Vidu, knower of the entire Vedas. And now there is a description of this tree. Adhaschurdham prasirtas tasya shakaha. The branches of this tree, it has gone all over. Adaha, urdhvam, below, above, it has spread everywhere. The Vishayas are the buds, nourished by the gunas. And it has the secondary roots which has spread into the Manushya Loka. This is how this tree stands. So now this is a description of the tree. Now please understand, you may search the whole world, you will not find such a tree. There are great painters who paint this tree also, with roots up and the branches below. It is a figurative expression of the samsara inside. Now let us see branch by branch, root by root, what this tree is. So what is the name of this tree? Ashwatham. Ashwatha can be divided into three. A-shwa-tha. Tha means that which stays. Tha means that which stays, that which remains. Shva means tomorrow. So shwa-tha means what? That which remains tomorrow. A means not. So what does it mean? Ashwatha, that which will never remain tomorrow. We are not talking of some peepul tree, we are talking of samsara. What is the nature of samsara? It is not going to stay tomorrow, meaning constant change. Forget about tomorrow, next moment it will change. Moment to moment change is what is being mentioned here. What all changes moment to moment? Starting from the mind, the intellect, the body, the world, the relationship, everything in this world, there is only one property, common property. What is it? Constant change. Moment to moment change. This experience of change is what is called as Ashwatha. Nothing but samsara, experience of change. Isn't it true that that is what we are experiencing? At the bodily level, the change is happening. At the mind level, change is happening. Our understanding of life, it changes. With new experiences, with every new experience, our understanding about life change. Our understanding about people change. Our philosophies of life change. And what about the world? My God. Everything in this world changes constantly. The one who is tossed up and down by this change is called a samsari. The one who is affected by samsara is called samsari. Meaning what? The one who is affected by this change is called samsari. Meaning what? Anxieties, worry, tension, stress, this is all what you will have if you are attached to that which changes. So we are talking of samsara. We are talking of this constant change, the experience of constant change. And now Bhagavan uses another term. If everything is changing, it is true everything is changing, but at the same time it is avyayam, imperishable. Meaning what? On one side it is changing, on the other side it is unchanging. Meaning what? Unchangingly changing. Avyayam means what? Imperishable. Ashwatham means what? Perishable. Means what? This change never changes. Meaning there is constant change. Avyayam means imperishable. Means what? This experience of misery which a samsari undergoes because of his attachment to samsara, this misery never ends. Avyayam, imperishable. At least after the death of the body, at least will he have some peace? No. After the death of the body, again punarapi jananam, punarapi, it goes on and on and on. That is avyayam. Okay, at least at the end of the world, no. Srishti, sthiti, pralaya. Again Srishti, sthiti, pralaya. Every time the creation comes, he also comes. The jiva also comes. There is no end at all. Even when the whole world goes to pralaya, his misery has no end. Are you able to understand? Even if the body is dropped dead, misery continues. Even if the world goes, it again comes back in Srishti, again his misery continues. And therefore, his misery continues unendingly. The samsara continues unendingly. Every moment he experiences change, every moment he experiences death. But the state of death he experiences deathlessly. Are you able to follow? Now, when will be there an end to samsara? There is only one way, by gaining spiritual knowledge. So to highlight the importance of spiritual knowledge, the text begins this way. As long as a person doesn't know who he is, so long there is no end to misery, there is no end to samsara. Samsara can end when there is only one condition: he has to know himself. As long as we don't know who we are, so long the suffering will continue, the samsara will continue. This is the message. So why is this description? So that we give maximum importance to the spiritual knowledge, the self-knowledge. Now the description begins. The description of this samsara vriksha. So when this description is given, we have to look within. Because where is this vriksha? It is inside. First, there is a description of the root. So what is being said here? Urdhva moolam. The moolam, the root is urdhvam, the higher. Now what is the link between a tree and the root? The tree comes from the root. Without the root, the tree has no existence. The tree is nourished by the root. And the one unique feature about this root is, the root is not seen externally. What is seen is only the tree. Isn't it? So what is this urdhvam? Urdhvam is none other than the Supreme Lord. This urdhva moolam, the root of this samsara, is none other than Bhagavān Himself. Samsara is the experience of change. Who is experiencing the change? Jivatma, the jiva. But who is giving existence to Jivatma, the experiencer? none other than pure consciousness, which is God. Now this God has been indicated as Urdhvam. He is highest. From Him everything begins. Right? So why do we call God as Urdhvam, the highest? Reason number one, Durvitneyatvat. Anything that is difficult to understand, we call it higher, isn't it? Higher mathematics. What do you mean higher mathematics? It is difficult to understand. It is not just 2 plus 2 equal to 4. Something higher is there. Unless you have the basics thorough, you will not be able to understand, isn't it? Whenever we say something is higher, it means that is little difficult to understand. Reason number one, God is called Durvitneyatvat, Urdhvam, because it is difficult to understand. Why is God difficult to understand? God is something which cannot be known through our senses. Sense organs cannot capture it. You can't see, you can't hear, so therefore it is difficult. Something which we can see and hear, it is gross, it can be easily appreciated, it can be perceived. It is easy to perceive. God is that which cannot be known through our senses. Also, it cannot be known through our mind also. Also, it is something which is beyond time and space and causation. Because of all these reasons, Bhagavan is Durvitneyah. And anything that is difficult to understand, we call it Urdhvam, higher. Sometimes after the class people say, Swamiji, all the class went above my head. The class went above my head means what? I didn't understand anything. Isn't it? So here Bhagavan is called Urdhvam because He is Durvitneyah. To know Him is difficult. The second reason, Karanatvat Urdhvam. When do you call something higher? When something is the cause, you call it higher. From parents come children. So who is higher? Parents are higher, children are lower. Cause is always higher, effect is always lower. The son may be a Nobel Prize winner, his mother may be an illiterate woman, but the son has to prostrate in front of his mother. Why? Mother is higher. So Bhagavan is Urdhvam because Karanatvat. He is the cause. From Him the entire world has come. The whole world has come from Bhagavan. So because Bhagavan is the cause, He is Urdhvam, higher. Is it becoming difficult? Is it becoming difficult? No. Urdhvam. Third reason, Nityatvat Urdhvam. That which is a changeless substratum which allow all the changes to take place in it. That changeless substratum can also be called as Urdhvam. Look at our own body. Body is constantly changing. Mind is constantly changing. Intellect is constantly changing. But there is something in this body which doesn't change. What is it? It is the pure consciousness. How do we know that it doesn't change? 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years back, I was there in a different body. Today also I am there. Now the body has changed. But the knower of the body, the knower of the mind and intellect is the same. How do you know the knower is the same? I, the knower of this body, I am able to recollect the experiences which had happened 20, 30 years back in another body. So knower of that body is the same as knower of this body. What does it mean? The knower is the same. What does it mean? The knower is imperishable, nitya. Everything has changed, but there is something which is changeless in every one of us. The changeless substratum is none other than Bhagavan. Nityatvat urdhvam. Then poshanatvat urdhvam. Who is nourishing this body? None other than Bhagavān Himself. Who is keeping this body alive? None other than Bhagavān Himself. So the nourisher is always higher than the nourished. Isn't it? Yes. Poshanatvat urdhvam. Then shasanatvat urdhvam. The ruler is always higher than the ruled. We are all living in this universe. We have no choice but to obey the laws of this universe. There are certain laws of this universe and we have to obey it if we want to exist in this world. We have no choice but to obey these laws. There are so many laws, whether it is the worldly laws or the laws of what you call dharma, we have to obey. So the one who obeys the laws, he is lower. One who makes the laws, he is always higher. Shasanatvat urdhvam. Then chit surupatvat urdhvam. The very sentient principle in each and every one of us. That life principle because of which the body is alive. Because of which the inert body appears sentient. That because of which the inert mind appears sentient. What is that principle which gives sentiency to this inert body-mind complex? It is none other than Lord. So therefore, chit swarupatvat urdham, that higher principle which makes this inert body-mind complex sentient. Therefore he is higher. And then sat swarupatvat urdhvam. It is high because it is the one which gives very existence to us. Existence is the property of consciousness. Who is giving existence to this entire world? World by itself has no existence. World has only a borrowed existence from consciousness. What exists is only consciousness. World has only a borrowed existence, just like the dream world existence. Dream world has no existence. Who exists? It is only the waker who exists. Waker's existence have been borrowed by the dream world. Isn't it? So which is higher? Waker or the dream world? Waker is higher. So who is giving existence to this entire world? That Supreme Lord, that pure consciousness. So therefore Sat Swarupatvat Urdhvam. And the last one, Sukshmatvat Urdhvam. It is high because it is the subtlest. This physical body is the gross. Subtler than this physical body is the mind. Now it is the mind which controls the body. From the thoughts come action. Right? So which is higher? Mind is higher than the body. Now still Sukshma of mind is Karana Sharira. So Sthula Sharira is the physical body. Subtler than this is the Sukshma Sharira. Subtler than Sukshma Sharira is Karana Sharira. Subtler than Karana Sharira is consciousness. Everything comes from Sukshmas to Sthula. From the subtle, everything comes towards the gross. Subtler a thing, higher it is. So which is the subtlest thing? It is none other than God. Therefore, Urdhvam. Enough? Yes, Swamiji, enough. The point is only this. The root of the tree is compared with God. Because the entire samsāra, where does it exist? It exists in Jivatma. Jivatma is existing in whom? In Paramatma. So therefore, Paramatma is the root. So this chapter actually begins by taking the name of the Lord. Urdhvamulam. So therefore we can say the beginning is the most auspicious, because the name of the Lord is taken. Shall we move forward? So what is the root of this tree? None other than Bhagavān. What is the root of samsāra? None other than Bhagavān. Without Bhagavān, no samsāra can exist. That samsāra which is existing in the mind of Jivatma, that samsāra has no existence without the existence given by Paramatma. Right. So Urdhvamulam. So from this comes Adhashākham. Now comes the tree. Shākham means a branch. Adha, lower. So why is it lower? Just take the opposite of higher, then that is lower. Anything that is gross has to be lower. Anything that is the effect has to be lower. Anything that which is ruled has to be lower. Anything that is nourished has to be lower. This way you take for all the meanings. Adha, lower. About these branches we will come later. Detailed description is going to come about these branches. We will see it later. Keep it aside. Next word, Chandamsi yasya parnani. So this tree has got so many leaves. What are these leaves? These leaves are the Veda mantras. Now what does it mean, Veda mantras? By the way, what is the function of leaves? What do the leaves do? The leaves nourish the trees, isn't it? By taking the energy from the sunlight, it nourishes the trees. Moreover, the leaves hide the ugliness of the tree. It makes it look beautiful. These are the main two functions. Now what are the leaves compared to? The leaves are compared to Chandamsi. Chandamsi here means Veda mantra. Now what Veda mantras? Not all Veda mantras. The Veda mantras in the Karma Kanda portion. So for that little introduction is necessary. The entire Vedas have been divided into two. One is called Karma Kanda, the other is called Jnana Kanda. The entire Vedas are divided into two. One is called Karma Kanda, the other is called Jnana Kanda. The mantras which are referred to here is of the Karma Kanda portion. Now we have to see what is this Karma Kanda portion. In Karma Kanda there are so many rituals and mantras given. What is the purpose? The purpose is only one: how to be materially prosperous. Karma Kanda says, O man, make use of God to become materially prosperous so that you can be happy. This is the message of Karma Kanda. Karma Kanda is not at all interested in jnana, in self-knowledge. Karma Kanda is only interested in dharma, artha, kama, bas, not moksha. So what is the main thing? Dhanam, dhanyam, pashum, bahuputra labham, shata samvatsaram, dirghamayuhu. Have you understood? This is the main purpose. Dhanam, wealth. Dhanyam, dhanyam you know. Then pashum. In those days, the more cattle you have, the more rich you are. In those days. Pashum. Then bahuputra labham. Lot of children and grandchildren and relatives. Shata samvatsaram dirghamayuhu. Long life, minimum 100. This was the prayer. So the Vedas say, do this ritual, chant this mantra, then you will get all these things. Do this homa, do that yaga, then you will get all these things. And if you get all these things, you are the happiest person. Do this homa, yaga, etc., so that after death also you will go to heaven and you will get all this. This portion of the Vedas, which is a 90% portion of the Vedas, it is Karma Kanda. So what is the essence of Karma Kanda? Make God the means, let world be the goal. Are you able to understand? So you go to God not because you want God, you want something from God. This is Karma Kanda. Are you able to understand? What is Jnana Kanda? Jnana Kanda, world is the means, God is the goal. Upanishad comes under which Kanda? Jnana Kanda. Bhagavad Gita comes under which Kanda? Jnana Kanda. We are not here discussing Karma Kanda. We are discussing Jnana Kanda. So in Karma Kanda, there is no discussion about the ego or the self or anything. It is taken for granted that you are this body. This understanding of yourself is never questioned. So therefore, there is no discussion of self-knowledge. There is only one discussion: how to get maximum things from the world, how to become materially prosperous. Are you able to understand? There is no discussion of knowledge at all. Why is it called Karma Kanda? Karma means what? Action. Work hard. Get whatever you desire and be happy. This is the philosophy. Work hard. Achieve success. Get the sense object. Indulge in it and be happy. This is the message. Work hard. Be successful. Earn a lot of money. Be happy. Now one may say, does it mean that Vedas are misguiding us? Then our answer is no. In the society also, we have all categories of people. There are people who are tamasic, very, very lazy, good for nothing. There are people who are rajasic, very selfish. And there are people who are sattvic, who are very selfless, pure-hearted. For all of them, you can't give the same kind of instruction. According to the level of maturity, instructions will vary. So then Karma Kanda is meant for whom? Karma Kanda is not meant for the sattvic people, the pure-hearted people. Karma Kanda is meant for the tamasic and the rajasic people. People who are very lazy. What is the best way of, making him active? The best way is inject some desires into him. Inject some worldly desires. So at least for the sake of worldly desires, he will work hard. That is the purpose. So thus he will come out of tamas. So therefore it is not meant for the most evolved and the matured that Karma Kanda is given. No. For them, separate section has been given, Jnana Kanda, which we are discussing now. This Karma Kanda is meant for the tamasic and the rajasic people. So, if you see the content of the Karma Kanda says, work hard, earn a lot, and be happy. So, what is Karma Kanda actually doing to the samsāra vriksha? Is it nourishing it or is it drying it off? It is actually nourishing. Yes or no? What is happening to the samsara in Karma Kanda? Karma Kanda portion of the Vedas, they nourish the tree. They nourish the samsara tree. That is why the Karma Kanda portion of the Vedas have been compared with the leaves of this tree. Are you able to understand? Or am I making it clear to you? Chandamsi yasya parnani. If a fruit has to become fully ripe, The fruit has to remain with the tree. It has to grow with the tree. And once it is fully ripe, it leaves the tree, isn't it? For a long time the fruit has to remain with the tree, because only the tree can help the fruit grow. In the same way, Karma Kanda portion is absolutely essential for those who are unevolved, immature. For all those immature, unevolved people, Karma Kanda helps them grow. So just like the fruit has to remain with the tree for growth, in the same way for such unevolved people, Karma Kanda is mentioned. So in Karma Kanda you will find the right ways of living, the wrong ways of living, the do's and the don'ts. All these things are said. In this world, if you want to live happily, do this, don't do this, etc., etc. All those instructions are given. Commandments are given. Right. So why is the Karma Kanda compared with the leaves? Just like the leaves nourish the tree, in the same way Karma Kanda nourishes the samsara vriksha. What about Jnana Kanda? What does it do to samsara vriksha? It is going to come asanga shastrena dridena chitva. The Jnana Kanda portion is going to cut the tree. The Jnana Kanda is going to chop the tree. It is not going to nourish the tree. Are you able to understand the difference? So therefore here it is said, Chandamsi yasya parnani. The leaves. What are the leaves? Chandamsi means Veda mantra, but we have to understand not all Veda mantras. Veda mantras present in the Karma Kanda portion. Not the Veda mantras present in the Jnana Kanda. We are not interested in nourishing the tree, we are interested in chopping off the tree. Because it is a samsāra tree. It is a tree of suffering. I don't want to nourish the tree of suffering. But for a tamasic and rajasic people, they don't see the tree as a tree of suffering. They see the tree as a tree of happiness, joy. Dhanam, dhanyam, pashum, bahuputra labham. Oh. They say, wonderful, most wonderful. This is what I want. Dirghamayuhu. Isn't it? A person who is sensitive, he knows, no, greater the attachment, greater is the misery. Because the whole world is nothing but sorrow. The whole world is full of perishable things and beings. If you get attached to these perishable things and beings, what will be your lot? Your lot will be suffering and suffering alone. When you are holding on to something impermanent, know for sure you are guaranteeing suffering. Suffering is guaranteed because it's perishable. Someday or the other that is not going to exist. And then when that thing becomes absent in your life, you become miserable. So a wise person, according to him, the samsara vriksha is nothing but the tree of suffering. Because in this world, everything is perishable. If you get attached to a perishable thing, there is only suffering. So instead of getting attached to something perishable, he will always try to hold on to something imperishable. Because it is the only imperishable thing which can give me real peace, everlasting happiness. So a Jnana Kanda portion, rather a wise person, a sattvic person is not interested in nourishing this tree. He is only interested in cutting off this tree. Are you able to understand? For an immature person, world is the source of happiness. For a mature person, world is nothing but concentrated sorrow. The question is, what are you seeing in this world? Are you seeing happiness? Then you are immature. Are you seeing misery? Very good. Leave this Karma Kanda, come to Jnana Kanda. You are the fit person. Right? So the whole discussion of 15th chapter is not to nourish this tree, put some manure, put some water. No. We are going to chop this tree now. Swamiji, does it mean that we should not be materially prosperous? No, that is not the point. The point is not that. Keep that prosperity, but at the same time, in the mind, let it be very clear that this world someday or the other is going to leave me. This knowledge has to be there. That's all what is meant. Are you able to follow? So now what is being said? Chandamsi yasya parnani yaha tam veda savedavit. The one who has thoroughly understood this tree, he has understood everything. So this tree means what? Not just the tree, along with the root. So there is a Paramatma which is imperishable. There is a tree which is perishable. So whom should we choose? The root or the tree? Choose the imperishable root and chop off the perishable tree. The person who has understood thus. Choose God and not the world. Choose the imperishable God and not the perishable world. The person who has understood this. Such a person is called Savedavidu. He has thoroughly understood everything. So what is the sum and substance of the entire discussion? Sum and substance is Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate. That's all. This is all. But then, no Swamiji, I don't think that is right. Those people who say, no, world is full of happiness, full of joy. For such people comes the next verse. So the next verse is, how this samsaric tree grows. A person who has ignored God, a person for whom God has no place in his life, a person for whom God is secondary or tertiary but not primary. For such a person, how the samsaric tree grows, that is beautifully explained in the next verse that we will see in detail tomorrow. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om.